Gillette Lar.
This is News Talk.
And you are very welcome along to Tuesday Nights Off the Ball. It's Richie McCormack here with you right through until 10 p.m. tonight. And on tonight's show, as Cork get ready to appoint a new senior hurling manager, we'll get the lay of the land at the Rebel County from Dennis Walsh. We'll preview the Women's Euros, which get underway tomorrow evening at Old Trafford, and the unique story of Wally Green. You're going to want to stick around for this one, who went from being a gang member who owned 6 guns by the age of 13 to finding salvation in the world of table tennis. It's a truly amazing story, and it's on the way for you a little bit later on. Plus the latest from Tallaght Stadium, where Shamrock Rovers begin their Champions League odyssey, and we might have to throw in some transfer news from Downing Street as well, which seems to be ablaze. Fabrizio Romano will be on the scene, I'm sure, by the end of this evening. If you want to get in contact, you can do 53106 for 30 cent is the text number. You can tweet us at Off The Ball. Joined in studio for the Newsround by Arthur O'D to my left. Arthur, good evening.
Richie, how are you?
And Colin Mullaney as well, who's bringing us the Newsround too. Arthur, or Col. It's just a mad few minutes. We kind of try to concentrate on sport, but you end up getting washed up in what becomes the sporting nature of stuff like what's going on over in Downing Street. You start to think about it in those terms as regards who's going to go next, what transfers need to happen for the team to click into gear, etc., etc. And
so what's this like about Hooks? This has been coming for a while.
They're essentially, the Tories are Manchester United.
Oh.
When did he lose the dressing room is the question.
Well, I think
how long can you go back?
There's a suggestion that that's gone, just like somebody's after putting up the Rishi Sunak statement, and it's just mad. It's just
What's
mad.
He said?
It's basically there are certain standards that he expects as regards being as part of the cabinet over in the UK. Quite how they were met over the course of the last 3 years, I'm not sure. But Sunak has decided that this latest farrago is his reason to go. It's, as I say, mad. If there's any further updates, any major updates, if Johnson quits during the course of the next 3 hours, we'll try and bring it to you here tonight. But yeah, we'll try and cover all angles sporting as best we can as well tonight, and bringing you updates from Tallaght Stadium. Shamrock Rovers going up against Hibernians, the Maltese ones that is, in the first qualifying round of the Champions League. Aisling O'Reilly will be there with us shortly. But as we touched on United, because we'll get to it in Cole's Newsround script eventually. But the Cristiano Ronaldo story is rumbling, and there are all these conflicting stories, of course, across the day so far today, as regards Ronaldo's standing at United, because he's looked like he's going to go. Like, I think that's the received wisdom, is that this summer will be the summer he calls it quits and decides to walk away, because he's not come back to pre-season training just yet. He's hanging out at the Portuguese national training camp in Lisbon. He's citing family reasons for not coming back. Miguel Delaney had a piece in the English Independent today, basically pointing out that teams get worse when Ronaldo is in the side. So they score fewer goals, and Miguel had the stats to back this up. Year on year, as regards when he's there, regardless of his goals, they have fewer points accrued. Happened at Juventus, happened at Manchester United. Year on year when he's there. And then you see stuff like what ESPN tweeted out, saying since Cristiano Ronaldo rejoined Manchester United, they haven't won a game in which he's not been involved. So what do you go with here? Like, you can see the dilemma that a lot of United fans will find themselves in, going, on one hand, he's Cristiano Ronaldo and he's scoring goals, and on the other, they're objectively worse when he's there, but they can clearly still be worse when he's not playing. So what side of the coin do you land on, Arthur?
On me, I'd cut him loose. I'll cut him loose.
Yeah?
It's nothing but bad news there, Richie. It's nothing... No, there's no redeeming argument or anything. There's no redeeming thing, I don't think, at all for keeping him.
Yeah. But even though there was this news that, Ten Hag wanted to build his attack around him for next season.
He does, yeah. Do you
think that was spoof?
Yeah, no, I think if he's coming in somewhere else and Ronaldo was on the market, he'd be straight in there lapping him up. Not a chance. There
was a tweet that went around last night saying that both Cristiano Ronaldo and Neymar have been shopped as potential recruits to Chelsea. Now, the subtext to that is, tell me you think Todd Bowley is a rube without saying Todd Bowley is a rube, because why you would want to invite either of those presences into your dressing room is a major question mark hanging over any kind of management team.
Oh man, that'd be fantastic. I mean, that'd be, oh God, here's the old, or what's the meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Yeah. Just like, that's proper.
Chelsea, let's get the ball rolling.
Let's get it going,
because clearly that's going to work out well for everybody involved.
Good grief.
But like, there is this weird now strata of footballers who exist in their own universes, and these two lads would have their own kind of entourages around them. They would have their own auras around them. They have, most importantly, I think, a specific pay level of which nobody else can match. And if they're performing, that's grand, and if they're happy, that's grand. If they're not happy and they're not performing and they're suddenly of no use to the team in which they find themselves, nobody else can afford them, and they enter into this weird limbo where, like, who wants to take on a Neymar? Who wants to take on a Cristiano Ronaldo? Which seems on surface level to be a mental question to be asking, because of course you'd want some of the notional best players in the world, but again, can you afford them, and do you actually want them?
And then you've got to consider the economic impact of bringing in a Cristiano Ronaldo to certain clubs where there's a financial incentive in terms of jersey sales and stuff like that, and the profile that it would add. Did Cristiano Ronaldo perform at Manchester United? I think he did overall. And you mentioned the stat about winning games when he was in the side. But then you've got to tally that with the damage that it does to the dressing room beyond that as well. And, you know, I would go along with, I think Rangnick suggested in January, didn't he, that they cut him loose at that stage. I mean, in hindsight, that looks like a pretty good idea and would have been one of the better decisions that Manchester United would have made.
Yeah, look, Joe was here last night saying Rangnick's whole thing was a disaster. They didn't listen to Ralph. That was the problem.
They didn't.
Nobody listened to Ralph. The team didn't listen to what he wanted to put out in the pitch, and the hierarchy at the club didn't listen to him when he suggested, get this lad out, get him out now, he's trouble.
I just love he's doing that in January. He was only in the club back in the club about 4 months.
But I think
that's a mistake.
You can look at Rangnick's post-match interviews from a certain stage in the season where there was just nearly an air of indifference from him, when I think he realised that actually nobody's listening to me here. There is nothing beyond the end of the season. And it was just an air of indifference, I thought, from Rangnick from a very early stage.
Listen, we've all had sub-teachers like that. And I'm sure, to be honest with you, there's probably a certain cohort of people listening tonight who may have been in, the upper reaches of secondary school, who had a teacher who was out on a COVID break. And everybody knew that there was no way that they were going to listen to this character who's at the top of the class now, because what's the point? He's going to be gone in 2 weeks' time. And there's the same vibe about Rangnick being there. Yeah,
John Giles called it from day one. The interim coaches don't work. They don't work.
They absolutely do not work. So 53106. We've pointed out the facts as regards Cristiano Ronaldo as they lie. They haven't won a game in which he's not been involved, but objectively, according to Miguel Delaney, he's made them worse.
Wrap your head around that.
That's. I think that's where people struggle with the Ronaldo thing, because, like, in sheer metrics, like, it works.
But there's no progression with it. There's no.
Yeah, if you're looking for a long-term project, you can't just have him there for a year and causing the trouble that he might cause in the dressing room and the divides. When you're trying to build something that's longer term and stable and built on decent foundations.
Well, you know what? This plays into something that Dennis Walsh will raise later when we talk to him about the Cork hurling scenario. And even us talking about this is, like, I don't want to turn off immediately, but it's pointless talking about it, because there are so many data pieces that go into sport at the moment. That surface level analysis and people kind of just, pub talking essentially is not necessarily damaging. It can be a little bit, I guess, but it doesn't even scratch the surface of what modern coaching teams are looking at. This thing of, he's not trying hard enough. It's like, well, I've got these screeds of data that suggest he is. It's a very difficult thing to actually accurately analyse sport in any meaningful sense now, because the metrics that go into it at the other side of it are so deep and so thorough that we will never have access to them, and we'll never know the true goings on of a player at a club or a player within a county setup, because we just can't see all the data that's in front of us, and this stuff does matter.
Yeah, it does. And the one thing you can't measure is morale and the togetherness of a team and so on and so forth. I look forward to metrics on that. But it's interesting that
makes meaningful metrics on the data.
It's interesting that the data as well, the way it's evolved and stuff like that. But I mean, togetherness and morale and a decent attitude, you would think, are the basis of everything, and then beyond that you can look at your fancy stats.
You're old school.
Oh my God. You're like Ron Atkinson when he was like giving out to Richard Keys. You could play with your fancy computers and all your data and all that. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. There you go. Call him Mullaney. Old school, I think, is what we call him tonight. 506, tweet us at Off The Ball. The Newsround brought to you, as always, with thanks to Gillette. Where are we starting tonight, Col?
Well, let's start with hockey today, Richie.
Let's start off with disappointing news, will we? Let's get off on a bum note. Talking about Ronaldo being rubbish and also brilliant at the same time. And we should get rid of him, and Dad is crap.
Ireland suffered a second successive defeat in Pool A at the Women's Hockey World Cup. They lost 1-0 to Chile this afternoon in Amstelveen. The winners are the lowest ranked side in the tournament. Ireland play Germany tomorrow in a game they must win now to have any hopes of progression from the group.
I believe we don't have any audio clips at the moment. And that's not your fault, Carl.
Not right now.
So yeah, it's basically they have resigned in support of Rishi Sunak and the others in the Tory government at the moment. But yeah, we were watching this outside earlier on. It was, I think somebody drew the comparison of Ireland versus Egypt, Italian 90s regards. It was a 0-0 right up until he mentioned kind of deep into the fourth quarter, and Chile struck, and Ireland really had no way back from them because Chile were so resolute and determined just to get at least a draw out of this game. But leaves Ireland in a position whereby Germany, who I think are ranked 5th in the world, Ireland need to get a result from them. They need to just essentially finish 3rd out of 4 in the group, and they'll get into the knockout phase, the crossovers, I guess as it's called. So big game on the horizon for Ireland tomorrow against Germany in Amstelveen, where those group games are taking place, at least from an Irish perspective. But as we mentioned, a massive game in terms of Champions League qualifying for Rovers tonight.
That's right, Shamrock Rovers beginning their Champions League qualifying campaign this evening. They take on the Maltese side Hibernians at Tallaght Stadium. That's in the first leg of their first round qualifier. Kick-off for that game is at 7:30. The Shamrock Rovers team is in. Alan Mannus starts in goal. Sean Hoare, Roberto Lopez and Lee Grace in the back three. Ronan Finn and Andy Lyons providing the width. Gary O'Neill and Chris McCann in the middle of the park, with Aaron Green, Dylan Watts and Rory Gaffney the attacking options.
Yeah, their preparations for this, let's be honest, not helped by the impending departure of Danny Mandrew to Lincoln City. That move still to be confirmed. I was keeping refreshing the wearetheimps.com website today, which is the Lincoln City website. Still no official word from them. But yeah, no Jack Burns, you mentioned, out injured. No Danny Mandrew, obviously he's on his way out. But Rovers clearly have the strength and depth, Arthur, to deal with a test like tonight.
Well, that seems to be, and that was certainly the kind of case that when Dan McDonald and Johnny were on last night talking about it as well, that it was kind of seemed a little bit of an inevitability. I think that kind of keeps them one way or another, is it, if they get through this, that they're in Europe of some form or other until the end of August.
Pretty much, something
like that,
between the falling down the different grades. Yeah, it can happen. That's guaranteed cash they'll make up for just getting 30 grand for Danny Mandrew.
Which is it's interesting. Like I don't know what you made last year of I presume you weren't watching too much of the Conference League. Say it goes that way, if they go with that, and that's kind of what it is. But I imagine that would. I don't know when balancing that off. So say they got that far, say they're in a group stage of that.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of strain that would put on them. Because obviously it'll come at a different sort of part of the year, and I know that with the group stages that it kind of almost it's kind of hitting its tail off as the season's kind of ending. But is that going to be worth it financially? Is that going to have the same financial boost as, say?
I think even if you get to the group stages of the Conference League, I think for any Irish club, it's not just the Shamrock Rovers thing, any Irish club getting that level of exposure, getting 6 European outings guaranteed in the autumn, that's major, and that's the level that Irish teams are going to have to aspire to now, because the Champions League route is obviously fairly narrow. The Europa League has become that now as well, with the the Conference League coming on stream. This is where you're going to be. I don't think you can complain. if it's a nice position to be in in the group stages of the Conference League, and juggling your league form, possibly in the latter stages. And if it's Shamrock Rovers, it's Shamrock Rovers. You know what I mean? They have the depth to deal with it. They have the cash to deal with it, and getting through these rounds and 30 grand for Danny Mandroy is just another ivory back scratcher for them. They're going to be all right. I think they'll be fine. And
so you're wishing them all the best.
Absolutely, 100%. Wish the Shamrock Rovers all the very best tonight against Hibernians. 7:30 kickoff. We'll try and get over to Aisling O'Reilly, who's there at Tallaght Stadium for us across the night tonight, Cathal.
Yeah, and we'll other action this evening as well. Irish League champions Linfield are in Wales. They're playing TNS. That game kicked off at 7 o'clock. And in the Conference League, Larne are away to St Joseph's of Gibraltar. That game kicked off at 6. Both of those games remain goalless. In tennis news today, it's been reported that Nick Kyrgios has been charged with common assault in Australia. The 27-year-old is, of course, competing at Wimbledon at the moment. He'll play in the quarterfinals tomorrow. It's understood he's due to appear in court in Cranbourne next month, with local media alleging it relates to an incident from last December. Kyrgios' legal team today issued a statement describing headlines that he has been charged as inaccurate. They wrote that the allegations are not considered as fact by the court, and Mr. Kyrgios is not considered charged with an offence until he appears in court.
Yeah, on court at the moment, Cam Norrie is currently serving for a place in the semi-finals. He has been put to the pin of his collar by David Goffin, the Belgian, at the moment, but it is 6-5 to Norrie in the deciding set. He was 30 love up. Goffin has just levelled this one at 30 all. We'll keep you abreast of that one as it goes on. But Djokovic, we thought he was down.
He remains on course, Richie, to win a fourth consecutive Wimbledon tennis title, but he was given a huge scare by Yannick Sinner in the quarterfinals earlier today. The defending champion had to come from 2 sets down to beat the Italian on centre court. It was quite a match, because we were watching this in the office as well, and the crowd was against Djokovic. He was 2 sets down. Everything looked in Sinner's favour, but he somehow pulled it out of the bag.
I think I heard the stat afterwards that this is the 7th time in his career this has happened, 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've seen every single one of them where Djokovic at a Grand Slam is 2 sets to love down, and like is moping about the back of the court, looking like the George Michael Bluth kind of meme from Arrested Development. And you think, woe is me, this is him gone now, that'll be him done. On Yannick Sinner goes to the semi-finals, and wouldn't you know it, like Lazarus himself, Djokovic rises and gets through to the semi-finals and suddenly looks like he's unbeatable again.
There was that sense of inevitability around the office between a few of you that were kind of this, well, here it is. It's like, oh, there he goes again. Lost the second one. Well,
it's like
strap in.
It's almost like that guy who's like keeps telling the same kind of joke over and over again. It's like, yeah, go on, get to the punchline. I know, yeah, I love this one. It's great. Yeah, you're 2 sets loved out, are you? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and he'll come back and. Essentially in those last 3 sets he blew him away, especially in the fourth. I mean, that was just ridiculous stuff, and you wonder why it kind of takes him so long in matches like that to wake up. And I guess it's just par for the course for these guys.
That's what I can't understand, like because that's not that look, it's not contrived, I suppose, on his part. You're not saying he's doing it on purpose, but it is kind of odd that you could have that. What does it need to get so far to the edge before you start kicking on? Because clearly
it's a mad momentum game, though.
It is. I'm just going to say it's huge. And the crowd as well were really against Djokovic, and he was trying to get them back on side. And then Sinner actually went down injured at one stage.
His ankle, wasn't it? Yeah.
He turned his ankle, and Djokovic went across the court and helped him up, and trying to get people on side.
Oh, good lad.
He did the
full
works.
What a good lad.
Yeah.
He's such a good dude, not Djokovic. He really, really is.
But he was saying in his press conference after as well that he had a break after the second set. I think he was 2-0 down and had a little bit of a chat with himself. Whatever he said, I'm not sure.
What's he saying in those instances? Novak, you got to get better here. All right, Novak, I think you're right there. I think it's time to actually, get on with things and possibly win this match. You're right, Novak. Do you know what? I think it's time to actually go and beat this 10-seed Yannick Sinner. By the way, Cam Norrie has just completed his victory over David Goffin. So William and Kate are on number 1 court there to see this one transpire as well. There is a home favourite through to the semi-finals at Wimbledon, which is always a bit of crack for the local crowd there. So Cam Norrie through to the semi-finals at Wimbledon. Is he play on Djokovic's side of the draw? I think he just he might be. He is indeed. It is Novak Djokovic that he's going to be playing in the semi-finals. So Djokovic was unpopular today against Yannick Sinner. By God, by the time that game rolls around with Cameron Norrie, he is going to be heel supreme at SW19. But there you go. Ons Jabeur has been given a bit of a test today. She's the highest ranked seed left in the women's draw, but not all going to plan for her this evening.
Not quite. She lost the opening set against Marie Boskova, but she's taken the second, and she's 3-love up in the third. Ons Jabeur, that's against Marie Boskova this evening. In today's other quarter-final in the women's singles, Tatjana Maria beat fellow German Julia Niemar by 2-1. The 34-year-olds reached the last 4 at Wimbledon for the first time after giving birth to her second child last April.
Just a fantastic tale for Tatjana Maria. The women's draw has been wide open. I know that was covered on OTB AM this morning, but I think Ons Jabeur is the one who's going to take this. Here we go. Put my head on the block here. Ons Jabeur is going to win, is going to be the one to go and win it, and she'll probably get knocked out in the semi-finals. Shows what I know, etc., etc. Good news, it seems, from the Jonathan Sexton camp.
Yes, the Ireland captain is set to be available to play in Saturday's second test against New Zealand in Dunedin. The out half who went off injured in the first half in last weekend's first test has passed a head injury assessment and trained today. And speaking earlier, Ireland coach Mike Katz said that Sexton has passed the relevant tests and is good to go for this weekend.
cue 5 minutes in and a massive crunching tackle from one of the New Zealanders.
It just doesn't seem, no more than the Ronaldo thing a little bit, age-wise. It just, I don't, and I'm sure they have, and again, it kind of all plays into all that in the numbers and stats and everything else and data they have available to them.
Cathal says don't mind all that.
I know.
In this instance, you probably should. Stick to
now
that.
that it suits Ireland, it's imperative that we pay attention to it. All right,
But
Grant.
I just don't. It seems like, I know Rory O'Connor used the phrase at the weekend, sleepwalking into another 2019 World Cup. But it seems kind of mad. Like, it's just, this is going to happen. He's kind of obviously getting to a certain point in his life, and there's a certain, I don't want to say proclivity for it, but like it's happened a few times. And if he does go off, what's the contingency? What's the kind of?
Steve, was it Stephen Kisby Green outside, our resident South African rugby nerd, was saying that Kieran Frawley at number 10 and Joey Carberry at 15 is possibly a way forward?
Oh God, I don't know. I'll let him.
Oh my God!
I'll let him stand that up. I don't know.
The fact that you sounded so downcast about it probably says.
No, I don't. Absolutely not. No, that's not the specifics of it.
The fact that you just went, oh God.
It just seems kind of mad that to be kind of thinking, right, well, he has to get back in this weekend again. I was like, what to what end? What are you going to learn? What's the benefit?
He wins matches.
Yeah, but I don't know.
The Newsround, as I say, brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Unlike yesterday, we've gotten 23 minutes into the show, and this is the first mention of the JP McManus Pro-Am.
Yes, Tiger Woods says he feels a lot stronger since earlier on this year. The 15-time major champion is at Adair Manor this week, participating in the JP McManus Pro-Am. Woods is travelling around the course in a golf buggy, but says he's feeling good ahead of next week's Open Championship at St Andrews, and it's believed in preparation for the fourth major of the year. Woods will stay in Ireland to play some links courses, but he didn't reveal which venues he's set to play.
There was a bit of a scoff there, Arthur, as if you've had your fill of JP McManus Pro-Am talk.
I never said that.
There was a tone to your scoff. I heard it.
No, I think it's. I was kind of more just remembering last night, but it was. It was.
It's all right. Nobody's gotten sued.
It was. It is. It's kind of interesting. I don't quite get the particulars of all this. It's a lot of people, and it's a lot of people who wouldn't get out of bed for not a lot of money.
Yeah. And for charity, though.
Yeah.
It's all for charity.
No, fair. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of, like, what I was thinking. A lot of money. And I know, obviously we've had a fair few people down there ourselves, so it's not as if I'm in a great position to comment. But it seems to get an awful lot of coverage for something that isn't. Like, I saw the coverage today being framed in, Shane Lowry at one point was only 3 off the lead. I'm going, who's actually looking at this as a proper sporting event? Because it ain't.
Because I do understand now. I do understand the hype and kind of excitement around someone like Tiger Woods being here. I think that's perfectly legitimate. Yeah. I think Tiger Woods playing in the tournament. I think a lot of those guys playing the tournament. Like, I don't think that's.
It's not small beans. No.
But I don't think. Yeah, I was surprised when I heard it was being televised. It's like, oh, okay.
When you consider the stuff that mightn't be televised, and the fight maybe that, like, we got the news today that Shamrock Rovers' second leg against Hibernians over in the TAC Halley Stadium in Malta is going to be on RT News now. Right. So like that's a week out, and being on RT News now is a bit last minute. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's like, the JP McManus Pro-Am is like wall to wall coverage of what? It's not really a.
Yeah.
It just kind of, I think I can kind of.
It does. I mean, you're a big golf fan. What do you?
Well, it's a hugely unique event in that you've 10 of the world's top 11 in Ireland. Like, I mean, it's a better field than most of the events.
But it's not
any.
It's not. It's Pro-Am.
It's a Pro-Am. Like,
at the end of the day, that's the.
Yeah, but they're all in the same place at the same time, so they're playing golf. So I mean, it is a huge attraction if you are into your golf.
Attraction. That's the thing. It's an attraction more than it is a sporting event, and I think that's what people have down there. It's like almost. It's a bit of a circus. Yeah, I don't mean that in a negative. It's like you go to a circus to look at people on the high wire. You go to see the clowns. It's a bit of everything all under one tent, and that's what the Pro-Am is essentially.
Well, I think for the people that are there, like all the reports that I've heard, is that it's been a hugely positive viewer experience, and that it is that little bit more laid back and this kind of interaction with the players as they go around and stuff like that. And when else would you get the opportunity to see Tiger Woods in close quarters like that play in Ireland?
When else, Richie?
Shook the man's hand once.
Is that right?
There you go.
Or after this.
I'm going to leave that dangling out there in the air. But one last GEA line. before we get going, because this plays into what we have coming up after the break here.
Yes, Pat Ryan is due to be confirmed as the next Cork senior hurling manager tonight. The winner of back-to-back All-Ireland titles as Cork under-20 boss has been put forward by the county executive to succeed Kieran Kingston. A 3-year term has been proposed for the 1999 All-Ireland winner and is due to be ratified this evening. Kingston, of course, brought his second stint in charge of the Rebels to an end at the weekend.
Cathal, Arthur, thank you so much. More from both throughout the course of the night.